This is the Big Deal Podcast, brought to you and powered by New Covenant Baptist Church in Albertville, Alabama. And on this podcast, we're asking the question, what's the big deal about all things Bible, culture, and theology? I'm Justin.
I'm Brad.
Welcome to the Big Deal.
Yeah, big deal.
Yay, big deal. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
How about you?
I'm doing good. It's been a while, everybody.
It has been.
We've missed 2 weeks.
We did.
I'm sorry.
It's because Justin got the plague.
I got super
One of the
sick.
plagues of Egypt.
Yeah.
Not really.
Not
but,
really.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been super sick. So sorry we missed and everything. I feel like I almost like I feel like I look back with a clear head and I was like I probably should have gone to the hospital at some point.
Yeah.
I was like I probably just should have been
You should've.
bullied. But I looked up.
But you're a man.
Yeah. So I had Giardia. Is that how you say? Yeah, Giardia. I keep on forgetting how to say it.
You got a parasite.
Yeah, it was a parasite. It's a waterborne. It's like bad drinking water is awful.
Yeah.
I was sick since Friday of 1 week to, and it really got bad on that Monday. All the next week, and then all into this Wednesday.
Intestinal
basically.
parasites are a thing to avoid.
Yeah, it was like 13 days.
Yeah.
I think total.
It was bad.
It's awful, man. But I'm better now, and we're doing podcasts again.
Yay.
So, yay, I'm
Yay.
better. But I looked back and I was like, I should probably.
I call him every day.
Yeah.
It was like, are you going to do a podcast again or not? And he's like, oh, I'm done. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, but here's why I didn't ever go to the hospital, because I was super dehydrated. I looked up on my phone what my insurance was for like an emergency room visit.
Yeah.
And I saw what the co-insurance payment would be and stuff. I was like, I would rather die than
I
pay
would
that.
rather die. Yeah.
I would rather die than pay that. That is so expensive to go to the emergency room.
That's sad.
I'm super cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we should figure out a way where that doesn't happen in our country.
Yeah, like decide whether to die or pay a copay.
Yeah.
Be.
It's awful. That's a bad place to be.
I ain't that sick.
Yeah, I'll make it. Yeah, but I'm back. I'm better. And here's the thing. So I'm actually supposed to be gone for 2 weeks next week. And so what we've decided, we love y'all so much.
We do.
Our tens and dozens of listeners.
Yes.
Love you so much. We've decided we're going to stack these podcasts. We're going to film a bunch of them so we can keep releasing while I'm gone.
Yeah,
and stuff.
we brought different shirts.
We did. So the next episode, you're going to see us in a different shirt. But
I
if you're
actually
watching-
left mine outside. I'm just going to take this coat off.
Yeah, but it's actually the same day. So
Yeah.
super sneaky we
Sneaky,
are.
sneaky. Yeah.
And so I'm back. We're back. We're doing podcasts again. I got a question for you, Brad.
Oh, boy.
All right. Would you rather have the ability to see? This is a constant ability that you have.
Constant. Okay.
To see 10 minutes into the future or 100 years into the future.
10 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm not going to live 100 years.
Okay.
So it doesn't help me. And look, here's the deal. I'm going to tell this. This is a big deal. People need to know this. I can already see the future.
Well,
Very often.
Oh, the 100-year future?
No, I can see into like people's futures sometimes.
Yeah.
When they're doing dumb stuff. I know where this ends.
Oh,
I'm
man,
getting
that's
old
so
enough
true.
now
Yeah.
where I'm like, I know where this ends.
Yeah.
And I talk to them. It's like the Greek mythology about Cassandra.
No.
So Cassandra was a prophetess who could see the future. And her curse was she could see the future and no one would listen to her. That was her curse, and she went insane. And so that's me.
They got that from Jeremiah.
Yeah, maybe they got. Well, it might be as
No,
older.
yeah,
Yeah, they weren't reading it.
I know,
it
I'm
was
just kidding, yeah.
that maybe they had the same problem.
But no one will listen
No
to
one
her.
will listen. Sometimes that's the way it is for pastors.
It is.
It's like, hey, this behavior is going to kill you, and they're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes in the future, I could think, I might should leave the house later. It's going to be a bad wreck or traffic. I could check traffic in the future.
But the 100-year future would be so stinking interesting, though.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be there. It'd just be a tease. Like, oh, well.
Yeah.
I mean, I might know what to invest in.
But you would know lots of new things.
I
Like,
would.
you know what to invest in. You could be super wealthy.
Or my grandkids could.
Yeah, you'd have like generational
Store up
wealth.
stuff up. Yeah.
But also, like, you'd be able to see, like, you'd have sci-fi now.
Or what if it's a big blank? A desert wasteland.
man.
Be like, whoa.
Oh, that would change. Imagine if you... If we granted you this ability, and your first experience,
Everybody's dead.
Everyone's dead. It's just a barren wasteland.
Yeah.
a nuclear
Holocaust.
You would be making bunkers, and
Would I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I might not tell anybody, dude. Like, I had an uncle. So I lived during the end of the Cuban Missile Crisis kind of stuff. And we were scared Russia was going to blow us up all the time in the 80s. And my Uncle Tony, I asked him one day, I said, Uncle Tony, they used to say they were going to blow up Huntsville. It was a big target. And they lived in Arab. Yeah, the Arsenal. And I said, Uncle Tony, what are you going to do? Like, if Russia drops a bomb on Huntsville, a nuclear bomb. I was a kid. I was like 12. He goes, Brad, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I said, what? He said, I'm going to climb on top of my house. I'm going to get me a full dose. And I'm going to die. Because I don't want to be around after that. That's what he told me.
I
So
get
there's
that.
something to it. So if you saw it was like this horrible, wretched, barren wasteland, maybe just don't tell nobody. Just like, you're going to die. Have a good time. Let's rack up some credit card debt. Here we go.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Or dig bunkers. There's only one of two things. You got to go all in to try to
I think
survive.
our mics might be a little hot. We gotta I think they're. I'm gonna pull our mics down,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna pull our ears up.
Okay.
How about that?
I don't know.
Is that better? Can
You're
you
our
hear yourself
sound
good?
guy. Yeah. Are you going to cut this out or people have to listen to it?
You have to listen to it, people. We're over.
Oh,
It's
man.
over then.
Okay.
We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my uncle's theory was I'm going to crawl up on the roof and die.
Mm-hmm.
Other people would be like digging bunkers.
Yeah.
Storing food.
I wonder what I would do. I think like
Oh, it would stink so bad if you
If
could
I-
only see 100 years and that was the waste.
Yeah.
Like if you could see 1,000 years after, it's like, does it come back?
if I had a lot of means, if I had like money, I'd probably like try to build up, like try
Bunker
to
up.
bunker up and stuff.
You ever thought about why God doesn't give you a bunch of money?
I know why he doesn't,
I know why he hadn't given me
because
money.
I'm irresponsible and
Oh, I don't think that's what it is. I think, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But we're going to be dead honest with our people.
Yes, be honest. Yeah.
If there was $500 million sitting in my account, I probably would not be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Because the first time pastoral ministry got like crappy and you're making like $25 million a year in interest, you think you're going to sit here and do this job? God's like, I can't give him that kind of money. He's a quitter. And look, if you're listening right now and you're thinking, well, he's just doing it for the money. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you have absolutely no needs, the temptation to go live on a Caribbean island might be too much for any person to stand.
There's most pastors are not doing it for the money, I would say, because if I quit today, I could have a better paying job by the end of the week.
Probably. I know
Easily.
people who are just starting out in life working in Huntsville right now. They have a couple of certificates and they're making more than me.
Yeah, I could make tons more money. I do this because I stinking love you people.
We love you.
Love you.
However, if you had $500 million in the bank and you could be like, let's just go.
I actually would do this for free.
Yeah,
I had $500,000.
that's what we'd do. We would do it for free.
I really would.
We would
Yeah.
never run away to an island.
I might have an island for vacation.
Yes.
But I actually really love Albertville.
I think about
I would move.
Yeah,
I would move.
I think
love
about it though, man. Like it's a lot of money, and I'm like 25 years in this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would.
There's a reason. What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
there's a reason. God could plop $500 million is nothing to God, not a thing.
Not a thing.
There's a reason I don't have it.
Yeah.
right. I mean, let's be honest.
It's because like whatever you think you would probably do with it, you're not probably appreciating how it would corrupt you and like
Yeah, it's like today I would probably behave for like 2 years.
yeah.
And then you're like, you know what I'm saying? Eventually it's like somebody.
Some of our church members are pretty well off, and God trusts them more than us.
Well, exactly. They're better people.
Yeah.
I think God made me a pastor because I'm lousy.
You know, there's a story of like it's a Catholic ordination service. Like it's a story. I don't know if it's real. It might be like legend or something. But there's this new priest that's being ordained, and a cardinal walks up to him, and he's chit chatting with this guy who's been doing ministry for a long time, and he asks him why God wants him to be a priest, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And the cardinal says because he doesn't trust you enough to be a layperson.
Yes.
And here's there's some truth to it, I think.
100%.
It's weird.
I am such an arrogant punk.
Yeah.
That I probably would have driven my own pastor crazy.
Yeah.
I'm serious. It's sad. Let's just confess it.
It's probably a strange dynamic. You probably weren't expecting that from pastors, but there's a truth to that.
Yes.
And
I'm a punk. I'm awful.
And also, we actually, I don't know, you do too. I know we think the world of our people.
Yes.
I do, man.
I love them.
Dude, y'all are incredible.
They're better
y'all
than
are
me.
So good.
Yes. They're better than me.
Yeah.
But like, I remember not being a pastor. I haven't been a pastor my whole life.
Yeah.
And like listening to preaching and sitting there as an idiot thinking, well, that's not where I went with that. I'm like preaching my own sermon in my head and stuff.
Yeah.
So is that a God's like, well, you think you go up there and preach. You just love to hear yourself talk. I'm going to be judged for so many words.
Yeah.
Such an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know what to look.
Golly, yeah.
All these good lay people that have like millions of dollars out there in the world who just serving the Lord, taking care of their kids, didn't leave their wife for supermodels and all this crazy stuff. Look at how
that's so funny. Have you seen there's a reel going around right now? It's about it's like this. He's a Christian comedian kind of guy, and he pretends he's
exactly
doing like a skit where he's interviewing some kind of like big name pastor who has all these book deals, and he's like, you just got
the biggest church in the United States.
Yeah, you've just released 4 books in 1 year. New York Times bestseller. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to cheat on my wife.
That's what he said.
It's not dark humor makes the day brighter.
Dark humor.
Yeah, but you look at how many pastors fall.
I know.
It's because we're lousy.
Celebrity
if someone tells me I'm a pastor,
man. Yeah.
that does not make me feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've known too many pastors.
Yeah, or if they say I'm a holy man.
Oh, a man of God.
Oh, a man of God.
If anybody says I am a man of God, or a woman says I'm a woman of God, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, in my heart, I'm like, I don't know, but this person is gonna. If you lead with that, man, you're trying to get somebody.
Right. All that to say, we don't have like weird like secret stuff or nothing. We're not like bad, super secretly like axe murderers.
I'm just trying to make it to the end.
Yeah.
I'm counting down the days to dying.
We just
30 years, man.
Yeah, 30 years.
I just got to hang on 30 more years.
Yeah.
And you think that I'm safe now. I'm like almost 50. No.
You're not safe.
So many people fall after 50.
Yep.
Did we talk about this?
We have, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a scary place.
It's awful.
There's a war. We're getting shot at.
It's a war.
Such arrogant.
Anyways, all I'd say, I have no idea how we got there, but
something about
pastors are humans.
Seeing in the future.
And we're not no better than you are.
Somebody asked me one time what would be a good death.
A good death?
Yeah, good death. And I
ain't supposed to be good, pal.
No, I think a good death would be just die in your bed and your kids there crying.
Yeah,
because they loved you.
It's just not supposed to be good. I think like people, like I know what you mean by that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to lie.
There are worse ways to die.
But theologically, that's the thing. It's not supposed to be good.
No, it takes a while too.
Yeah, it's supposed to be bad. It is a judgment.
Getting old's a judgment.
It's
you get old because God reminds you can't stay.
You can't stay.
You can't stay.
And that's a great segue for what we're talking about today.
There we go.
Today,
about the Exodus.
We're talking about the Exodus.
Yeah.
Let my people go.
Let them go.
You can't stay in Egypt no more. You got to get out of there. You got to go worship me in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, God. Sorry. Yeah. Yahweh. You know what I meant.
I knew what you meant.
know what I meant.
Everybody knew.
So we've been tracking through Genesis. We're into Exodus now, and today we get to the famous Exodus story, man.
Yes.
No one in all of church history and all of Israel's history first, but then also later in church history, they never get over the Exodus.
Never.
The Exodus is huge. Jews to this day still celebrate the Exodus through the Passover. And so we're going to start with that. We're going to start into all the situations in that deal with the Exodus. We left off last time on...
When last we left off, dear listener.
It was God's commissioning Moses to go to Egypt, tell Pharaoh to let my
people go.
Yeah, man. That's good. Hey, recently, I was just telling him about this. I'll tell you guys about it. I watched The Prince of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
If you've not watched The Prince of Egypt, it's a DreamWorks
man.
animated
Can't believe they did that movie
in 1998 released. And it kind of looks like a Disney movie and stuff, and it is so good. It's so,
the music is so good.
The score is so good. The voice acting is really good. They have like crazy voice acting. Val Kilmer, Sandra Bullock,
Andrea Bullock, her twin sister.
Yeah. They have all these people in it, and the artwork's really good. But what I was shocked by, I watched it when I was a kid, a long time. I rewatched it while I was having the plague and just having to watch movies. I was shocked by how well they stuck with what is important in the Exodus story. Mm-hmm. Now there's artistic license, to make a good movie, that kids can appreciate. But they did not flinch at all from the tragedy of what Exodus is.
Yeah.
What happens in Egypt.
Yeah.
Man, they let it be dark and tragic and a lot of people die.
Yeah. Pharaoh's son dies.
Yeah. They let that happen.
Yeah.
And they don't shield you from that.
No.
And I love that. I thought they did really good with that. Just theologically, it's supposed to be a judgment against Egypt, and it is. If you've not watched it, you need to go watch that movie with your kids. It's on Netflix, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You can stream it on Netflix. So I'm fresh off that. I'm so excited to talk about
Let's do it, man.
The Exodus. So Moses is supposed to go to Egypt, and he's going to get some help. His help is his brother.
Yeah, Aaron.
Right? Yeah, his brother Aaron. Do you know how old Moses is?
Yes.
How old
he is 80.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
That's the thing that the movie does not portray well.
Yeah.
He looks 40.
He spent 40 years growing up in Egypt. Then he murdered the dude.
Yeah.
Then he spends 40 years in the desert with Zipporah and his father-in-law Jethro.
Yeah.
Then God calls upon him to come back, and he's like, let my people go.
He's 80 years old.
80 years old.
Doing this. He's not a young man.
No.
And there's this funny, I don't know, it's funny. It's just this weird thing that happens when they're leaving out of Midian with Zipporah.
Oh, we didn't talk about that yet?
No, we didn't.
The bridegroom of blood.
So let's look at that verse. What is that? It's at the end of 3, isn't it?
God chases him down the mountain. It's the weirdest thing.
Is it in 4 or 3? It's at the end of 4.
Yeah.
End of 4. Yeah. Verse 24. On the trip at the overnight campsite, it happened that the Lord confronted him. God confronted Moses and intended to put him to death. It's like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Out of nowhere.
Whoa.
He just said, go to Egypt, tell him to let my people go. And now he's apparently on the way, and God is about to kill him.
He confronts him. He's about to kill him.
Yep.
And so you should be shocked. I was like, what's happening? And so Zipporah, his wife, took a flint, cut off her son's foreskin, threw it at Moses' feet, and said, you are a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him alone. At that time, she said, you are a bridegroom of blood, referring to the circumcision. What does that mean?
Do you want to know, really?
I do really want to know.
I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
Moses didn't want to circumcise his kid.
Why?
I don't know. You talked about how even to this day they celebrate Passover, but they didn't always.
Yeah.
We know in the time of King Josiah that they found a scroll in the temple when they were doing repairs, and they start reading it, and it's the Torah, and they don't know what it is. And they read about the Passover, and they say, we haven't been doing this. And so they gather Israel together to do the Passover, and the guys aren't circumcised.
Oh, yeah.
And so this breaking of God's covenant pops up all the time.
Yeah.
And it's even with Moses. Like, for some reason, Moses hadn't circumcised his son. And he's a Levite.
Yeah.
I mean, before they're Levites.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, before they're called on to be the priesthood of God,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are going to be the priesthood of God.
Yeah.
But he has, and his wife does it.
His wife, who
Yes.
is a Midianite.
Yeah.
It's wild.
They've probably been fighting about it or something. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
we get no
She had to
context.
know.
Yeah.
She had to know about
Yeah.
circumcision somehow.
Yeah.
And maybe she was resisting him doing it,
Yeah.
and he hadn't put his foot down, like something weird. But she's mad at him,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah. And so, I want to think about this too. Moses is 80.
Yeah.
How old is that boy?
I don't know.
He probably ain't a little boy.
He may not be.
He's probably not a little boy.
He might be.
He's 80 years
And
old.
his mama had to go in there.
He's been with Zipporah
For 40
nearly
years.
40 years.
Yeah.
Right. That was an adult boy.
Oh, man. This is the weirdest story.
Yeah, it is. And
There's a lot of stuff about it. People think it's out of order.
Yeah.
Like it got
in the wrong
moved
spot,
around. It's in the wrong spot. It should have been early in before God calls him. And it's only 2 verses.
Yeah.
It just it's a weird spot.
Yeah.
But it's I think it shows that we think of Moses as a hero.
yeah.
Moses is not the hero of the Torah. He's not.
No, he's not.
He doesn't get to go in the promised land.
Yeah.
There are no heroes.
There's
in the
only
Torah.
one person that in all of the Torah that starts at the beginning and goes into the promised land.
Joshua and Caleb.
No, it's Yahweh.
Yahweh. That's true. Yeah.
It's God.
Yeah.
He's the one, it's a story about shepherding or the Lord shepherding his presence.
But
into the
isn't that
land,
kind of
you
the
know?
tendency, though? When
Yeah.
you're reading the scripture, you
Yeah.
start identifying yourself with the people who make it. It's like the people, when we watch a zombie show, we think we would be the people that survive the apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah.
So you start thinking of Moses as the hero.
Yeah.
He says, let my people go.
Yeah.
But if you really read the narrative closely, it does everything it possibly can to tell you Moses is not a great guy.
No, you're right. First, he's a murderer.
Yeah, he's a murderer.
And then
he
he's
doesn't.
a reluctant.
A reluctant
Does
prophet.
not
I
want to
do
go.
not want to go. Could you
Yeah.
not please get somebody else?
And-
And then God's about to kill him because he won't circumcise his son.
Yep.
And then halfway through it, he loses patience with everybody.
Yep.
Like he yells at people all the time.
Yep.
And then the Bible says he's the most humble man on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So what does that all mean? Moses is the best we got,
Yeah.
and this is how he is.
That's right. Yeah, the best we got. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so it's an important thing.
So what does that mean for us? Remember earlier when I said I was lousy?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a fact.
It's true.
It is true.
Brad, you're the best we got, pal. No, you're not. Yeah. Hey, I actually think the world of you. I think you're awesome.
Don't make me cry for all these people.
I think you're so good. You like
like my hairdo?
Dude, I want to be a pastor like you, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I do. Like you are my
I can't screw up now.
my role model, man.
I got to keep.
Yeah.
Who'll be your
Yeah.
role model
Yeah,
when
wipe
all your
those
role
tears.
models are gone?
yeah. We're gonna have a moment.
There
out
is
here.
a song.
Yeah.
You know this song by Paul Simon? If you'll
which
be my
one?
bodyguard.
No, I don't know that.
If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long lost pal. Anyway, there's a line and it says, who'll be my role model when all my role models are gone?
Yeah.
Gone. They duck back in the alleyway. Yeah. When I was a kid, that was like a dumb line.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that I'm
It makes
grown,
sense.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're role modeling now. You don't really get.
I know, and a lot of people I looked up to over the years are
Yeah.
gone
Yeah.
in like bad ways.
Yeah, not just dead.
Not just dead,
Yeah.
like disqualified.
Yeah. Yeah. The pressure's on you. Don't. Do
I
that.
am not
Don't,
gonna
hey,
screw-
don't do that to
Oh,
me.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna.
Yeah. So it's a big deal. The reason it's a big deal, this
Yeah.
thing about Zipporah, is because you're seeing that God, it's the same God, same law, same things going on. It's not like he's abandoned circumcision as part of this covenant
and he's
thing.
not going to let it. What do the kids say today? He didn't let that slide.
He ain't gonna let. That's
He
right.
don't let it slide.
He's
It does
not.
not matter who you are. I don't care if you're Moses. He
Yeah.
ain't letting it slide.
That's right.
And you know, later we'll read in the narrative where God says, "You're not going into the promised land. You didn't do what I told you." Right? Sometimes people read it and think, "Boy, that's harsh. Ain't that
Yeah.
harsh? That's a little harsh. Seems
Yeah.
harsh." It wasn't. He's not going to let it slide.
He's not gonna let it
Nadab
slide.
and Abihu
Yep.
burned to death. They're not going to let
Yep.
it slide.
And so that'll help you appreciate grace,
Yeah.
man. The grace of Jesus.
God could kill me right now.
Yep.
It'd be deserved.
Yep, that's true. But he ain't right. I guess.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope
That
not.
would be so
far.
freak.
So far, he
if I said that and died, people would be like, well,
shouldn't have said that.
who's going to do the podcast?
So they go out into the wilderness, and he gets to meet Aaron, his brother, and they, I guess, they knew each other or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of, you don't get much details about.
No, like
what
when did
all-
Moses realize he was a Hebrew?
That's-
How did he know? I mean,
Yeah.
his mother was his nursemaid, and they nursed kids way longer back in the day than they do now. These kids be like 4 or 5 years old. They
my gosh,
yeah,
really?
man,
Wow.
yeah. In the old days, they nursed kids a long time.
How about that?
Boy, Samuel, when he's taken up there, he's a toddler, man. He's old enough to leave him there.
Oh, yeah,
before
yeah.
she weaned him. I mean, I always thought, man, if that kid's old enough to ask for it, like
Yeah.
he might ought to be weaned. As soon as they start getting teeth, my kids were
Oh
getting
my
weaned.
gosh, man, teeth.
Oh, he's biting that thing.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
that's
no-
it, we're done.
That's no fun. That
Dump
don't sound
kid
fun
in the
at all.
mouth.
Yeah.
Pow!
So we don't get much details about what Moses knows about his family,
No,
about his Hebrew
but he knows
heritage.
Aaron's his brother.
Yeah, and one thing I read about too, I was doing some research through all this, was how the word Hebrew is used. This
Yeah.
is just interesting. We kind of use that interchangeably with Israelite.
Yeah.
But you'll notice if you read carefully in the scriptures, Hebrew is used almost exclusively as a pejorative statement from someone in the
outside.
nations outside looking in on it. It was actually like a
They called
It's a diss.
Abraham a Hebrew.
yeah,
actually.
it's like
Before Israel.
And it-
Hebrew is older than Israel.
yeah, it comes from like Eber or something. It's like
Yeah.
one of the descendants of Abraham. It's in the genealogy, but all the surrounding peoples used Hebrew as like it's kind of like a bad word for
Yeah.
these people, and
Yeah.
so we kind of use it interchangeably. It's not used interchangeably in the Bible.
No.
Israelites is the standard, until you get the split kingdom, and then you get Jews from Judah and Israelites from Israel, Northern
Yeah.
Kingdom, right? So they go out, they meet, and then they head to Egypt. You're going to confront Pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about what's happening here. What's going to happen? Because we're not going to read every single piece of this. It's like
So
7 chapters.
So the old
yeah.
Pharaoh died.
Yeah.
And Moses goes in there, and he doesn't want to. And Aaron goes with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, hey, the God of Israel. And at first, it's not like, let us go for good. It's
Yeah,
not what he says.
that's right.
He says, my people need to go worship our God on this mountain.
Yeah.
And it's like, we'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll worship him, we'll come back.
Yeah.
And Pharaoh's like, I don't know your God. Why should I let you go?
Yeah.
And so then these weird things happen. Like Moses throws down his staff and it
Yeah.
turns into a snake.
Yeah, yeah.
And the court magicians, man, they got some tricks up their sleeve.
They do.
They throw down their staves and it becomes snakes. And everybody's like, look there. And then Moses' staff eats their snakes and turns back into a snake.
Yeah. That's a great scene in that movie. I'll
It
tell you, by
is.
the way. That's
It
an
is.
awesome scene.
It's a neat scene.
Yeah.
And
There's a song that goes with it. What's that
Yeah,
song? Do you remember the
it's,
song? What's that?
I only things I can think of
What
now
is
are
that
inappropriate
song?
for a podcast. I don't know.
man,
See, I
that's so
told you I
funny.
wasn't a good person.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that happens, and then the leprosy thing. He can stick his hand in his coat, and it's like leprosy, not leprosy. Leprosy,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
leprosy.
yeah.
And the weird thing is though, when the plagues first start, we're just going to go through the plagues kind of over.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
As they the court magicians are duplicating a lot of the weird stuff that happens.
Yeah.
But they got a frog plague, and
Yeah.
they're like, look, we can make frogs.
Yeah.
Frogs.
Frogs.
Frogs are delicious. If this had happened in South Louisiana, people be like, hot dog.
What's that scene?
Look at the frog.
In Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? With the
He
toad.
turned me into a toad.
Toad.
Yeah. So, we thought you was
was
a
a toad.
toad. Do not seek the treasure.
The backdrop of the play. So what happens? He goes in. He's going to talk to Pharaoh, like, let my people go, and over again. He's back and forth. We're not going to do that. Well, God sends a plague through Moses, via Moses, and that attacks Israel and attacks Egypt. I mean, and there are 9 plagues, right?
Something like
Yeah, it's like 9 plagues. I think it is. Let me pull it up here. I had it pulled up. How many plagues is it?
that was.
It's 10 counting Passover.
Yeah.
10 counting Passover. And so these plagues are like happening to Egypt. They're responding to him and it's always disbelief from Pharaoh. Now, the backdrop of that is that these magicians, it's not like, Harry Potter magician. Right. It's not like Lord of the Rings, Gandalf wizard. The magicians kind of represent the gods of Egypt. And they're
like priests.
They are. They're like and the reason they're able to do things is because these little g gods are helping them.
Yeah.
It's their power, right? And so what is actually happening is that, like, this little battle in Egypt between Yahweh, the true God, and the gods of Egypt, the pantheon of gods in Egypt. And it's their power versus Yahweh over and over again. And you actually see it play out in what the plagues are. Because you might read through, like, why flies? Why frogs? Why disease on cattle? Why bulls and whatnot? Mm-hmm. And there are sets of Egyptian gods that match that they had gods of the cattle.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, when the Nile turns to blood, the Nile was one of their biggest, it was their source of life.
It's a huge one. Yeah. Yep. You have...
Killed all the fish.
Osiris was like... the Nile was Osiris's bloodstream. That's the little G god, Osiris of...
Yeah.
And Hapi is like the spirit of the Nile. And there's several of them that have, like, association with the Nile. Well, what does God do? He turns the Nile into blood useless. Like, he makes it useless for everything that they use it for in a blink of an eye. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's attack on these gods, and they can't do nothing about it.
Can't do nothing. And God says it was for this very reason I raised you up.
Yeah, that's right.
To demonstrate my power in you. Yeah. So God let the whole world think Pharaoh is God, so that when he thumped him off the top of the pillar, they would know.
They would know it's not. He's not. Those gods.
Have I told this
false.
Story about my uncle that lived in Egypt? My great uncle.
No, tell me about that.
Yeah, so he is an interesting guy. I'm not sure who he worked for, but he did some weird stuff in Egypt. Worked with their military.
Did he discover the pyramids?
No. I think he was working one of those 3-letter agencies, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so, but he told me one time, this is probably 15 years ago, he was like, I have been up, we were talking about the Exodus. He was like, I've been up the Nile on like a cruise, like going up the Nile. And he says, even today, as you're going up the Nile, there are these huge, like, obelisks and stuff that are just massive that are there. You can see all this stuff. You can see the pyramids. And he said, I can see, like, in my mind, I thought if I'd come here 3,000 years ago and I'm just some farmer from down up north or south and coming up the Nile, and I saw these things, I would think Pharaoh is a god.
Yeah.
Because everything that they did was so... we still go see the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
What rivals that construction to this day?
Yeah.
You can argue skyscrapers and stuff, but if skyscrapers are so awesome, why are we flying to Egypt to look at these stone pyramids, right? To this day.
Yeah.
And they're not what they were.
Yeah.
They used to be
the
covered.
pyramids will last longer than the skyscrapers.
The pyramids used to be covered in white marble. Did you know that?
I've heard that. Was it limestone?
It was like limestone or marble, and they stole it to make houses. They used to be even more impressive. So if you can imagine Egypt when it was a beautiful green paradise because of the Nile River, and the Sphinx was new, and the pyramids were new, and all those obelisks floating up when you're going up the Nile, you would have looked at that and thought Pharaoh's a god.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And so later on in the narrative of the Bible, especially when the Israelites come into the Promised Land, they're conquering, they're getting rid of the Canaanites, evil, wicked people. They're all those Canaanites. A lot of them are so terrified of Israel. Yeah, not because they're super fierce. They're not.
No.
But they will say over and over again, their God. But basically say, like, do you remember what they did to Egypt? Their God did to Egypt?
Yes.
And do not mess with them. Or they'll say, like, we got to get this, get these people out of here.
That's what Rahab says.
Yeah.
She's like, we're scared to death. We know.
We just saw this on Sunday morning preaching through 1 Samuel. The Philistines say this, to the army, I don't know, of Israel, whatever. Anyways, all these plagues are attacks on the gods of Egypt. You got frogs, lice, flies,
gnats.
Yeah,
gnats are the first ones they can't duplicate. It always cracks me up. It's I don't know how he made this gnat storm out here.
Yeah. And after that, no more plagues come to the Israelites also. right? Because they're kind of affecting everyone from there. But you got disease of the cattle. Every one of these have like some Egyptian gods. Like there's like 4 gods that are associated with like cattle in Egypt, right? And so, well, there's going to be a disease on your cattle. Like your cattle, your gods can't. They're gods of cattle, and Yahweh can make all the cattle sick. And make them die and stuff.
Yeah.
Who's really in charge?
Who's
right?
in charge?
Yeah.
God is in charge.
Boils,
Boils, not balls.
bowls. Yeah, you know what boil is?
Boil?
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah,
awful?
a boil's on. It's like a
big old
zit on
pimple.
steroids.
Yeah.
I had a boil one time
Where?
on my forehead.
Oh man.
I think it was actually, in retrospect, a staph infection
Oh wow.
on my forehead.
Almost every infection is.
Yeah, but if I had lived in 1825, they'd said it's a boil. I
Yeah,
could feel
yeah.
my heart beating in that thing.
Whoa.
It was awful.
Whoa.
I tried to wear a hat to hide it. I was in college.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened.
It's hormones, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
It was awful. I didn't have enough sense to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
It looked like I had
I wouldn't have-
smuggling a golf ball.
I wouldn't. Oh, a golf ball? Are you saying that big?
It was probably, that's what it felt like. It was probably the size of a queen marble. You know
What's
the
a queen? Oh, the big marble?
The big marble.
Did it stick out that far?
That far.
No way.
I couldn't get my
Brad.
hat over my head.
It stuck out.
Yes.
You were going to unicorn.
I looked like a unicorn. It was right here above my
Oh
right
my
eyeball.
gosh.
And dude, I was sick. I
I'm
could feel it
surprised
up there.
you don't have a
I
scar
can't-
from it.
I can't imagine it being all over my body.
Did it pop?
That's what I wasn't going to talk about.
Yes,
It
it did.
did.
Oh, I bet that was sick.
It felt so good.
Oh, I bet.
I was so happy, but it was awful.
One of the weirdest phenomena in our modern day is how many like pimple popper videos.
Dude,
are on the
people would
internet.
have people be watching that in their mouth water. Them weirdos.
It's so weird.
If I
Look,
see that, I'm like, ugh.
if you watch pimple popper videos,
You'd have loved to have been in Egypt. There was a time in Egypt where everybody's covered in moles.
Man, you would have just been killing it here in Egypt.
Oh.
But that's weird, dude. That's
is
weird.
weird. It's
Like,
weird.
I don't know.
Some people got a fascination
So
with it.
Steph, my wife.
Oh, wait a
She
minute.
don't like those.
Okay.
But she likes that ASMR, like clicky clacky stuff. Oh my god, it drives me
I can't
crazy.
do it.
I can't do
People
it.
who whisper for a living,
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey, it's like, what are we doing?"
The other day, she was listening to some of those, and she said it's relaxing for her to go to bed. I was like, "Are you insane?"
It
Like,
makes
what
my
in the world?
it makes my skin crawl.
I cannot imagine thinking
Yes.
that's relaxing.
I don't know. So
Yeah.
anyway, there was a plague of ASMR.
All right, there's hail. Also, hail falling. That sounds so southern.
My great grandfather almost
Yeah.
got killed in the hailstorm.
Dude,
Knocked him slap out. It's like the golf ball size. This is probably, I don't know, 1950.
dude, could you imagine being in the ancient world and not really knowing what hail is?
I know it.
In like,
You know what they said?
what did they say?
They said, "What the hell?" No, it's PG now.
Fucking rocks falling from
The sky,
from
like
heaven.
in the hot.
God's throwing rocks at me.
Yes, the hail was so bad in Egypt in this plague that it beat the crops down.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
destroyed their
Yeah,
crops.
yeah.
People were killed.
Yeah.
by the hailstones.
And then the locusts came through and ate all the crops.
But that was left.
Yeah, that was left in this darkness. And so
And locusts are weird.
Yeah.
You know what a locust is?
it's like a big old cricket.
It's a grasshopper.
Yeah.
And every once in a while they mutate. It's a mutated grasshopper. Look it up. Dead serious.
It's a grasshopper. It's
That-
just a grasshopper
that mutates.
That mutates.
Something happens to their like pheromones or something, and they
What?
all get charged up and they start morphing into locusts.
Oh my gosh.
Serious, man.
I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, they make this sound. They go like Transformers.
Wow.
No, I don't know, man.
Wow, that's nuts. So
My name
one
is
thing
Optimus
about
Prime.
like this is it's kind of a reversal of the blessing that came to Egypt
Yeah.
initially
Yeah.
with Joseph.
Yeah.
They were given all this plenty, the bounty, all the crops were working there, only there. They were able to get through this 7-year famine and whatnot because of God's hand on them. This is reversing all that. Crops
Mm-hmm.
are all dead. All the cattle dead.
Yes.
Yeah, people are sick.
And then it starts like at first it seemed like it happened all over Egypt, but then it was like in the land of Goshen where the Israelis lived.
yeah,
No plagues.
yeah, they're okay.
They're okay.
They got some of the plagues coming.
yeah, they
in.
got some of them.
Yeah, but
not
no
all.
more. Yeah, it's after the flies, I guess. And you get the darkness. It's like some sort of eclipse thing or something, but it lasts a while though.
It was so dark you could feel it.
Yeah, in that's
Hello,
another.
darkness, my old friend.
I've come to talk with you again.
Yeah.
Hello. And that's you might be familiar with the Egyptian sun gods, right? One of them are like Ra and stuff.
Yeah.
And so again, an attack against the Egyptian gods, right? But still, light is in Goshen.
Yeah.
Right. Light's in Goshen, where all the Egyptians are, or all the Israelites are. I'm sorry. And so, in all this thing, what does Pharaoh say?
I ain't gonna let him go.
He will
I will not let
us
you go. Let me go. Will not let you go. Let me go.
Yeah. And then you get the penultimate. You like that word?
So along the way, so did Pharaoh harden his heart, or did God?
Oh, that's a
harden his
good
heart?
theme of the whole thing, right?
Sometimes it says, and Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not let the people
Yeah.
go. And sometimes it says, and God hardened his heart so that Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go. So which one was it?
What does harden your heart mean?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know what it means.
What does it mean?
Let me tell you.
I asked.
Okay. So people think maybe if somebody said I hardened my heart, we can understand that, right?
Yeah.
It's like he just didn't want to do it.
mean.
He's mean. He got stubborn, right?
Yeah.
Which is right. But when it says that God hardened his heart, it's like, is God playing games? Like he sent him to Pharaoh to let my people go, and then God hardened his heart so he wouldn't let the people go. So does God want him to let the people go or not?
Yeah.
It's like God's talking out of both sides of his mouth or something.
Yeah.
You get this weird picture of God telling people to do stuff, and then behind the scenes he's manipulating them so they won't do stuff.
Yeah.
That's a bad understanding.
Yeah.
So it is true at the same time that God hardened Pharaoh's heart and that Pharaoh hardened his heart. And this is how this works. So if you are without Christ, if you're without faith in God, the way God hardens your heart is by telling you the truth. So if you see someone in error and you say, oh, he's doubling down. Mm-hmm. So you say, hey, man, you need to stop this behavior. It's bad. It's not such a bad behavior. You know, they double down.
Yeah, yeah.
That is God hardening your heart through the truth.
Yeah.
God did it by telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And they hardened their heart by rejecting truth.
Yeah.
So the way God hardens hearts is not by like, hey, don't do what I'm telling you to.
Yeah.
He hardens your heart by saying, hey, you need to repent of this thing. And that hardens their heart.
Yeah, yeah.
And the I think it was the Puritans maybe that had this saying that the same sunshine that melts the snow hardens the clay.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing. Like
With the gospel.
With the gospel, the same sun that melts the snow hardens the clay.
Yeah.
And so for some people, God's truth hardens them. And he will take responsibility for it. Mm-hmm. I say, I hardened his heart. How? I told him the truth.
Yeah.
And every single person listening to this has felt this tension before, because you have known somebody that you needed to confront with something.
Yeah.
And you're afraid to do it. Why?
Because you don't know how it's going to go, man.
You think you know how it's going to go.
Yeah,
It's going to go poorly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? If I tell this person the truth of how I really feel,
Yeah.
it's going to be received with anger and defensiveness,
Yeah.
and it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
It's going to be worse.
It's going to be worse.
People avoid confrontation for this very reason.
Yeah.
And so would it be fair to say, if you confronted someone and they got angry and you knew that they might go in, that you hardened their heart? Yes. Yes. But is it your responsibility, or did you do something wrong? No, you did something right. Mm-hmm. You have to tell them.
Yeah.
They have no hope of breaking out of these behaviors if nobody ever tells them the truth.
Yeah.
And people don't. Oftentimes we are left to our own device because people are too scared to talk to us. That's one thing you should always cultivate, is the ability to receive difficult truths about yourself,
Yeah.
or you're doomed.
You are. Yeah.
Like, for
you
real.
got to humble yourself.
You'll be like Pharaoh.
Yeah.
I mean, get mad for
That's
a little
why
bit, but
Jesus
think about
talks
it.
about humility so much. Jesus, man, just doesn't let people stay prideful, man.
No.
He don't. That's like very important for the doctrine of election.
Yeah.
You know, in predestination.
Absolutely.
Because
And people are automatically scared when you say that.
yeah, they are, and because there's this like subset that is problematic, and it's kind of defined wrongly sometimes, rightly other times, called double predestination.
Yeah.
Which is that God not only predestines those who will, the elect, those who will
Believe.
love him, believe,
Yeah.
humble themselves. But he also predestines those who will not. Like
Yeah.
in the caricature of it is like God makes people
Go to
so
hell.
that he can burn them.
Yes.
That's the caricature of it, right?
Or and also people will say, well, if God hasn't elect, then he's not sincere in the gospel offer.
That's right.
And I've heard people who believe in predestination, they put that forward. They make it. I had a guy tell me
Some
one
people
time, you
say
shouldn't teach kids to sing "Jesus Loves Me." I punched that guy right in the
my
mouth.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's like,
that's an awful thing
You
to
don't know
say.
that God
Yeah.
loves all these kids. Some
Yeah.
of them might be predestined for hell. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
like that's not how this
Like,
works.
God doesn't love you, pal.
Yeah, I don't love you. Yeah, but the thing is that
Yeah.
the gospel appeal and God's appeal to Pharaoh is genuine.
Yeah.
If he would have let Israel go,
Yeah.
they would have avoided these plagues.
Yeah.
God knew he wasn't going to let them go.
Yeah.
And when God says through his messengers, through his word, through his pastors and evangelists and you guys out there, that if you will believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, if you will repent of your sin and trust Christ, you'll be saved. That's a genuine offer.
Yeah. It is.
And when they say, I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
God didn't make them do that. That was their own sin. They
Yeah.
should have done it.
Yeah.
And God's being sincere.
Yeah.
Sometimes God says, if you'll trust my son, I'll save you. And everybody actually's initial response is, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And God says, yeah, you are. Let me talk to you a little more about it.
Yeah.
And he'll bring people to himself. He's not obligated to do that
Yeah.
to everybody. Some people he just lets them go.
That's right. Yeah, it's an important distinction
Yeah.
because the caricatures.
You can
of
go
it-
your own way. Go your own way. Why am I so
Fleetwood Mac,
musically?
man.
Yeah.
So the caricature is problematic for the character of God a bit.
Mm-hmm.
If like God of double predestination, like God makes people so that He can burn them. Right.
God takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked.
Yes, that's right.
That's the scripture.
And also, God desires that all men come to repentance, right? And so you have to take those verses into account also, that the judgment on people is like God's justice on display. He's doing it.
Yeah.
He's doing what is right. But at the same time, like He is with arms wide open.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
See what we're doing here?
you got to sing it like you can't hardly talk. But Jesus talks about this. The
Yeah.
heart of the Lord, he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I long to gather you as a mother hen gathers
Yeah.
her chicks.
Yeah,
And what does
yeah.
he say? But you would not.
But you would not.
He said,
That's right.
he weeps
Yeah.
over Jerusalem.
Yeah.
He's not joking.
Yeah.
I wish you would come.
Yeah.
But they won't.
Yeah.
And he weeps over it. But yet at the same time, he knew they weren't going to.
Yeah. And so we'll just be a little more explicit with like what we're talking about. It's like certain people you might listen to, read a book from or something. They might be, so we're Calvinistic-ish, Reformed-ish in
Out
this.
of respect for our truly Reformed Presbyterian brethren,
We say ish.
because
But
we love them.
I get, yeah, it's fine. But
I guess
we
we
have a
love them.
confession.
Yeah.
We have a confession.
We
We're
do.
Reformed.
We actually stole theirs.
Yeah. And, it
the
made
Bap-
it better.
Yeah, the London Baptist Confession is
Yeah.
a straight thievery of the
Absolute
Westminster.
forgery of the Westminster.
100%.
And then the New Hampshire is a great improvement upon the 1689 Second
In
London.
some areas, yes.
I think in all
the
areas.
1689 Confession, to me, its
too
downfalls is too detailed.
It's way too detailed.
Yeah, you
And
don't
too like
to join a church is too detailed.
it's too historically like
On the nose,
situated.
like-
yeah, there's like stuff on there like the Pope is the Antichrist.
He is the
always, I
Antichrist.
guess,
Yeah,
you know.
always, forever.
Stuff like that. But so we have a confession, but we're like Calvinistic-ish, which means that when it comes to our doctrine of salvation, like, you know, we things like election, we're on board with, you know, the predestination of the elect, you know, those kinds of things.
That makes me so sad when you say that.
Why?
Because have to say I'm on board.
I know it. As soon as I said that, I was like, that's sad. dude.
Because, like,
That
but
is a
that's the
sad
truth.
thing.
I had people
Yeah.
confront me one time in a church I once pastored. I won't mention it at Mount Calvary, but they came in.
You
these
said you won't
deacons,
mention it.
I did it, though. I don't just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And they came in and said, we don't believe in predestination. And I said to them, do not say that dumb thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe it like I do. Like
Yeah.
straight up, you do not.
Yeah.
But you cannot say I don't believe it.
You
because
can't do that.
over and over and over again,
You
the
are
Bible says you are predestined.
If you say I don't believe in predestination,
you don't believe the Bible.
You don't believe. You're a liberal.
Yeah, no, you're worse than a liberal.
You've like forsaken the scriptures.
Yes.
It's over.
You have to believe
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
about predestination.
Yeah.
You cannot say, I don't believe
Yeah.
in predestination.
Ephesians 1
Yeah.
is so clear.
For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
you
That's
cannot
Romans.
say,
Yeah.
I don't believe in predestination.
Yeah.
You have to believe something.
Yeah.
And how does this relate to Pharaoh? It relates back to how you understand the hardening of the human heart.
Yeah.
What God is doing in truthful gospel appeals. What's he doing?
Yeah.
Is he making people not believe? No.
No.
And the Westminster Confession is clear in that. The London Baptist Confession is clear in that. The New Hampshire Confession is clear in that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with God making you
Yeah.
not believe. It has to do with the hardness
Yeah.
of your own heart.
But there are some people out there you might stumble upon on social media, writing books, that will say God makes them not believe.
Yes.
Wants them to not believe.
No.
And they call themselves
not true.
Calvinists and Reformed or whatever.
Well, and here's the other thing.
In a sense, I guess they are, but they're in error on that.
I try not to get too upset about it or wrapped up in it anymore because I'm old. And I realize that everybody's stupid. And I have believed some stupid things. Like over the past, how old am I now? 30 years of being a Christian. If you could take snapshots of my theology along the way, and we like could write
All
it
right.
down.
Okay. Right now, what's the most stupid thing you ever believed?
The stupidest thing that I ever believed.
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my gosh.
That's a great question.
So in seminary, I had a guy who was a nouthetic counselor.
Oh, what's nouthetic counseling?
Nouthetic
Everyone-
counseling is you don't need medications for depressants and stuff. It's all
Depression.
sin-based.
Yeah.
It's
and
all
anxiety.
sin-based.
Yeah.
And I believed that for a little bit. Thank God I got over it. That was stupid.
Yeah.
I believed. I mean, I was an Armenian when I first became a believer. I
Oh,
thought
wow.
that but I didn't really know what that
Yeah,
meant.
yeah.
I didn't know. I used to be a more worser Calvinist. Oh my goodness!
You were a cage stager?
Oh, staging the cage.
I never really was a cage stager.
Well, good.
It's not anything about me. It was just like the people who introduced it to me weren't, and so I wasn't like it was like seminary
Oh,
professors.
I'm going to say something
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, go ahead.
I used to think the most important thing I did was preach.
Oh wow, yeah,
Boy, there's probably some preacher boys out there that would pucker up even hearing that.
yeah,
It's not the most important thing I've done.
man.
It is very important.
It's important.
It is massively important.
And you're a great preacher.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
It's not the most important thing I do.
yeah.
It really isn't.
It's not even close.
Love your people,
Yeah,
or they're not going to hear a word you say anyway.
that's right.
And I used to think, man, there's a lot of maturity that happens in your life, and you can't help people with it. Like you can't. Like
Yeah.
I can't help people. I tell.
We've already been on this somewhere a little bit at the very beginning of the podcast.
Just
yeah.
I can't help people.
Yeah.
It's like I've used this illustration before, but when you're older, and now my kids are, one of them's out of the house, one of them's almost out of the house, and you talk to somebody who's pregnant with their first child, and you hear somebody tell them this baby's going to change your life, and they're like, yeah, we know. I want to slap them, be like, you have no idea.
You don't know.
You do not know. Or young couples coming in for marriage counseling,
Yeah,
and you can see in their face they think nothing bad's ever going to happen, and there's no possible way they would ever drift apart and get divorced.
Yeah,
and I want to
yeah.
go, hey, let me tell you something.
yeah. Y'all ain't never had a real fight.
You ain't never been upset. You ain't never had your feelings hurt like your wife's fixing to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
You ain't never had your feelings hurt like your husband's fixing to hurt your
Yeah,
feelings.
yeah.
And you're never going to have felt more insecure and exposed in your life. And I cannot help you.
There's
I
no
can tell
way.
you that. I can tell
Yeah.
you that. I can tell
They
you
can't
that
appreciate
you
it.
are going to
Yeah.
get so mad over the stupidest stuff and think that you're not loved.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You can't help nobody.
No.
So anyway, some things you just got to walk through this maturity process of life. And the good news is
Yeah.
about the time you start getting it figured out, you die.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. I remember. Oh, so many
I
things.
think the stupidest thing I ever believed was
tell me.
that drinking alcohol was a sin.
Oh, I believed that for a while.
Yeah, I had that.
That
a
was
teetotaler.
so
That was so
stupid.
stupid. Such a legalist, man. Like a
Oh,
weird.
I think that was really the thing.
it was like a I'm better than you kind of thing when I was in college.
I was
Yeah.
convinced because I was told it was true.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of arguments why you shouldn't drink. I think they're solid. But to say that if someone else drinks, they are automatically in sin is dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb. And I didn't understand. I feel like my whole trajectory of life has been slowly God freeing me from legalistic, prideful thought.
Oh, I got one even stupider.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
How could it be stupider?
Because I was in high school. And I was in early high school,
Yeah.
I guess. I thought that is, I had good youth pastors. They're great.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault, man.
They were still learning too, man.
They were still learning.
They're in trajectory.
But it's like the early 2000s and stuff, man. The purity culture thing, and dating was wrong.
Shut up.
Of any, not even courting, none of that. Like, it's just wrong.
How would you?
I know it's so stupid, but like I believed that for a little while too when I was like young, so stupid.
So stupid. There's so many stupid
Oh
things.
my
Of this
gosh,
maturity.
man.
I used to be so scared of girls. Oh my Lord.
That's actually probably really what it was. Is like that was like the I was like my youth pastor told me I shouldn't date. Like what are you doing?
That's your
I was
excuse.
like oh yes, finally I don't have to do it.
I don't have to talk to a girl.
So
You know what's weird though? What I've learned is that women are people too.
They
You know,
are.
that's,
Yeah.
they just like
Just people.
Just people. Just
Yeah.
talk to them. They're
there's
okay.
people. It's okay, man.
I didn't think
You're
they
gonna
weren't
be
people,
okay.
but I was terrified of them people. I
Yeah.
was scared. I was
I was
like,
scared.
oh my goodness.
Scared. Yeah. So
Youth is wasted on the young.
yeah, I guess.
But I cannot go back in time knowing what I know now.
Yeah, no. We've already talked about
yeah,
that.
we're not doing it.
Yeah, we're about to wrap this one up. So let's give the big deal. We're going to save the big plague at the end for the next episode.
Okay.
Next episode, like next week.
Yeah, on next week on the podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So give us the big deal about these plagues.
The big deal about the plagues is that it's Yahweh asserting dominance
Yeah.
over the gods of Egypt. And he is not just to the Egyptians. He's having to teach the Israelites too.
Yeah.
Because they don't know who God is.
They don't know Yahweh.
No, they don't know him. They've forgotten him.
Yeah.
And so it is showing to them, because they complain the whole time.
Yeah.
Because things keep, that's another big deal. I'm getting so sidetracked. But you think when God says to Moses, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go, things are going to get better.
Yeah.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
They take away straw for the bricks.
They get mad about that.
And they're mad. They're like, it's better if we wouldn't. What are you doing? And
Yeah.
Moses is like, God, what are you doing? Like, it's
Yeah.
getting worse, and the
Yeah.
people are about to kill me.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, let's go back up there and tell him again. And then, back there. Go back there and tell him again. And he does. He goes back and tells him again, and it gets worse. And they
Yeah.
beat the people, and it's getting more and more worser
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
So sometimes when God calls us to stuff or things happen, whatever, things get worse. They don't get better.
Yeah.
And the big deal is that God is showing Israel that he is God. He is showing to Egypt he is God. And vicariously through this showdown, he's showing the world he's God,
Yeah.
the known world at the time.
That's right.
So that even the people up in Canaan are shaking in their shoes
Yeah.
when Israel shows up.
Yeah.
Because God is God. There's the old, when I was a kid, the Charlton Heston 10 Commandments movie used to come on every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't anymore. It was a wonderful piece of cinema for the day. And Yul Brynner played Pharaoh. Mm-hmm. He was a famous actor back in the day. And he goes and he chases Israel with his chariots.
Yeah.
And they all die, of course. And he comes back in the movie and he's sitting there on his throne. And in the movie, his wife, the Queen of Egypt, is kind of a turd. And she's like,
Pharaoh? No.
Yeah, Pharaoh's wife is a
Oh,
turd.
okay, yeah.
Worse than Pharaoh, really. I think she loved Moses one time in that movie, and he rejected her. But anyway, she asked him, why did you not come back with the slaves? And Yul Brynner sits on the throne. I thought this is the greatest moment in the whole movie. And he says, because his God is God. That's what he says. And that was the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the big deal.
That's the big deal of the Exodus
is
story.
that
Yeah.
the God of Israel is the one true God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, everyone, that's the big deal about the first 9 plagues of Exodus. Next week, we're going to talk about the Passover. We will see it. Well, actually, you'll see us then. We won't see you,
Yeah.
but you'll listen to us or see us
And
then.
thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. I hope it's helpful.
Click and subscribe. Did I mess it up?
Yeah, it's okay. We'll see y'all.
See ya.